I think Senator Specter is going to have a very tough primary. I think he starts off with a head start. He's got a stronger name ID. He's got a stronger ballot position. He's got more money in the bank. He's got some big endorsements, and all of that matters. But I think he created a huge vulnerability for himself with the party switch, and I think voters see that as evidence of a guy for whom the only principle that's important is his own reelection. And I think Sestak will drive two messages pretty aggressively. One will be that Senator Specter is simply not trustworthy. He promised that he would never do this, and then as soon as he saw a poll that showed he couldn't win the primary, he did what he promised he wouldn't. And the second message will be that Sestak, is the reliable liberal, the guy who will advance Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama's agenda. And Democratic electorate is generally probably going to be sympathetic to that argument. So if I had to bet, I wouldn't want to bet on Specter. Some in Congress are insisting that there has to be a government option. We have, over 1,000 different health insurance providers in the country, and they want to have one more. The idea of having 1,001 isn't to give one more choice. The idea is to subsidize it and to give it a competitive advantage over the private plans, which will drive people into it and might encourage employers to drop their private coverage and drive. That's the purpose of it. The biggest criticism, even from the left on this plan, is that it does not reduce cost. Now, you can force taxpayers to subsidize it, and then you can have a lower cost plan, but you haven't lowered cost. All you've done is shifted the cost to somebody else. And I think that's what is going to happen with this whole approach. I've advocated some things that would actually lower cost. Medical malpractice reform. I mean, we still haven't got meaningful tort reform that would certainly lower costs. That's one. Another idea that I think would be very constructive, there's legislation's been introduced by John Shattuck from Arizona. It would allow people to buy health insurance regulated by a different state. So you would immediately introduce a lot more competition and allow Pennsylvania families to decide, do I want to pay the higher premium for a lot of mandates, or do I want to go to a state where there are fewer mandates and buy a policy that's regulated there and it's lower cost? That would definitely directly create more choice, and I think it would lower cost. I think that's a better direction to go. I'm still looking at that. I'm still looking at both her testimony and some of her decisions. Let me say something about that, if I could. I was critical of Democrats who gave a knee-jerk reaction against Roberts and Alito when their turn came up, and who sort of harshly rejected them on ideological grounds, which I thought was unfair. I think it's equally wrong for Republicans to take that approach with Sotomayor. I'm not sure where I'm going to come down when I go through everything. There are a lot of decisions. She's certainly intelligent. She's certainly qualified. And she certainly has many decisions that seem to be well within the mainstream of jurisprudence. But I do have some concerns about whether she's really able and willing to administer justice equally to everybody. And I need to study some of the cases.